And now joining me here on a Missouri Valley Conference chat, Brian Wardle, the head coach of Bradley. And Brian, in the last couple of years, when we actually had an NCAA tournament, you guys were the hot team going into the tournament. Obviously, that wasn't the case last year because we didn't have an NCAA tournament. In the final few weeks of the season, what are the chances that this Bradley team could do that again?
Well, there's definitely a chance. I think we played at a pretty high level in the non-conference, and then, we hit a rut. We hit a rut with quarantines. We hit a 3-week delay. We haven't practiced a whole lot. Our schedule's been very difficult with makeup games. And then we hit some, we had some key injuries. So we've been through the adversity, obviously, this year. But if we can get healthy and if we can start playing a little bit better and more consistent, we can play at a high level. There's no doubt about that. So that's been my ultimate goal, is just try to get us a little healthier, try to get some practice time in, because we have to improve in some areas. And then we got to get just our streaky play out of us and start to be a little bit more consistent in some areas.
So I think you're the perfect person to ask this to. And look, I know this is an unprecedented season, like an unprecedented year in all of our lives as human beings. But, the value of the conference tournament, which is obviously a little debate topic right now nationally in our sport. And there's a February 26th deadline that conferences have to alert the selection committee about who gets the AQ. Is it going to be the winner of the tournament, or is it going to be the regular season champ? All signs point to still being Arch Madness and all that. But I want to get to you in general, and even maybe this year, especially with your team. What is the value of the conference tournament?
Well, it's just one opportunity to get everyone on a even playing field. More so this COVID season than ever. You look at everyone's schedule's different, game schedule's different, time of games are different, opponents are different, who you play at home and who you play at away. Injuries have played a factor a lot during this season more than ever, or guys missing games. So I'm hoping that the conference tournament just gets everyone that one last opportunity to hopefully have a healthy team and everyone's on an even playing field to play these games out. It's really hard to win regular season championships. I've done it, but there's a lot of things out of your control that you need to have happen for you to do that. And there's a lot of things this year that you have no control over, more so than ever any season. And there's been a lot of things outside of our control that have been hard for us to get through. And now we could have responded and played better at times. There's no doubt about it. But, I got to keep things in perspective for these young men. They're going through a lot, and the game stretches that we've had have been very difficult. So that conference tournament's huge, I think, this year more than ever, in my opinion.
And in years past, what has it been about your group that has produced so much success?
Well, health. I mean, we are the last 2 years we've won the conference championship. We have gotten our whole team together by the first week of February, second week of February. Everyone was healthy. And then we started clicking and playing very well. And we've always had high level of play over the years, but there's things out of your control when you're going through the regular season sometimes. And we just haven't been able to control everything in the years past. But, this season I'm trying to get my guys to rally. It's a way younger team than I've had the last 2 years. We have 8 newcomers, and it's a different roster, different schedule. Everything's different, but they do believe that we can do it because we've done it 2 years in a row.
And I think that's a great point too, that in this COVID season, it is a carrot at the end, that if we took it away, especially teams that have just been on pause or coming out of pause within the last couple of weeks, you could argue that it might be hard to create that incentive if they're not first or second place. How much do you see that argument?
Well, I think you've seen it in even college football. Teams where if they start off slow and struggle, that they kind of lose hope a little bit, and the team really doesn't perform well that whole season. So I think conference tournament keeps that hope alive, can keep that energy alive for your group. 1 and 2 obviously matters with seeding, and you get seeded properly and have some positive, advantages over the other teams, which you should, because you've played well during the regular season. But this year more so than ever, it's you can make a point if you look at team schedules in their rosters. I mean, it's so different for everyone, and it's different on who you play. And then some teams have home fans at home. Some people have 1,000 fans, 2,000 fans screaming for them. there's some teams like us in Illinois that have had none and will have none. So I think getting to that tournament where there's some fans and it evens out a little bit definitely makes sense, in my opinion, for most teams.
And Brian, the back-to-backs in the conference tournament, you got to play back-to-back-to-back to win it, at least 3 days. So how much could these back-to-backs help prepare a team for that tournament in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think it helps everybody just have a lot more experience with the back-to-back routine of what you want to do with your team, the film sessions, the walkthroughs, the adjustments. I think everybody will be comfortable playing back-to-back-to-back now. I love the idea was great what the Valley did, because it's got, like, we've played over 20 games and I didn't know if we would get to 20 games this year. And so the idea of playing back-to-back just this season of COVID pandemic makes a lot of sense. And it's really hard to do, though, especially when you have the midweek games in between. That's what's gotten us the most, is just it kind of runs you down going back-to-back and then having a midweek game. I don't think it's anything we'll hopefully move forward with in the future, but it definitely got games in, which is ultimately what was our goal.
And lastly, Brian, I just got to ask you a question, sort of big picture here, beyond the season. And that is, and I know I'm going to be talking a lot about this in April, May, and June, and July, is going to be roster management. This is the freebie year, if you will. I'm just curious, amid all the chaos and craziness that you have to deal with, on a daily basis of making sure everyone's negative, and, where are we going, how are we going, how are we getting there, how are we masking, and the whole bit. How have you been able to even compartmentalize recruiting, roster for next, and all those kinds of things that at some point are going to come to a head, especially if everyone wants to be back?
It's going to be crazy, Andy. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be open market free agency like I think we've never seen. And, my staff and I know other programs obviously are too. We're getting texts from people saying, oh, this kid's going to leave. This kid's going to leave. This kid's going to play a fifth year. This kid's going to play a fifth year. Do you have interest? And it's already started, Andy. It's already started. So I think when this season's over, when your season's officially over and the Final Four's done and national championship is crowned, it's going to be a whirlwind of recruiting. And your rosters, a lot of rosters, I think, are going to change. I hope I can maintain my guys. We're a young group. I like our talent. We need experience and we need practice and we need an off season together. But you got to be prepared for anything this year and make sure that you know what you need and want, because it can change, I think, week by week when season's over.
All right, so that's a problem for another day. I just want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah.
You're going to get through the next
funny.
weeks.
We've talked about it as a staff, though. We're preparing for it the best we can, I think.
All right, Brian. Well, I appreciate it. Stay safe, and hopefully everyone gets safely to St. Louis and we have another great tournament.
Sounds good, Andy. Thanks. You too.